This episode of Okay, But Did You Know comes with a content warning for adult language. We respect all opinions as we hope you'll respect ours, and we recognize that our opinions can at times be particularly harsh. That being said, if Peter Pan is one of your favorite characters, this episode may not be for you. We respect differing opinions, and our critique is never an attack on those who like the character. But with that being said, given these warnings, listener discretion is advised. Hi, friends. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Katie, and welcome to Okay, But Did You Know? A podcast where we talk about the TV and media that we love with a friend who's never seen it before.
Today we're recapping and chatting about Once Upon a Time, episode 308, Think Lovely Thoughts. This episode aired on November 17th, 2013. It was written by David H. Goodman and Robert Hull, and was directed by David Solomon. And it was actually, when it aired, it received 6.66 million views in the US, which I just kind of personally find hilarious.
I love that so much.
It's like so apropos considering the demon we're about to talk about.
Oh my god.
So before we get into our recapping and chatting, and I really hope you heard that content warning and you listened to it and you heeded it, let's get into a synopsis for the episode. In the Enchanted Forest. While Malcolm gambles away what little money he has to his name, he leaves his son, Rumpelstiltskin, in the care of two local spinsters. Once they see he has talent for spinning, they give Rumple a magic bean so that he can go somewhere his father's name won't follow him and be successful. But still believing in his father, Rumple uses the bean with him to travel to Neverland. But Malcolm soon realizes that he can't enjoy the realm anymore because he's not young. After having made a deal with the Shadow, he gives up Rumple so that he can be eternally young and stay on Neverland, turning him into Peter Pan. But all magic comes with a price, and his youth is temporary. If he cannot find a solution before the hourglass runs out, he'll die. And in Neverland, Pan's plan is about to come to fruition. After finally convincing Henry to help him save magic, they travel to Skull Rock where Henry can do his part. Regina and Rumple meet up with the rest of our heroes and execute their plan to get back Henry, only to find that he'd already left. Wendy tells them the truth, that once Henry gives Pan his heart, Pan will be able to absorb all the magic of Neverland and be immortal, but Henry will die. After Rumple agrees to create an antidote to save David's dream shade poisoning, Rumple, Regina, Neil, and Emma travel to Skull Rock to save Henry, but they're just too late. Rumple gets captured in Pandora's box instead of Pan, and Pan uses his powers of charisma to convince Henry that his only price will be life on Neverland. But as Henry hands over his heart to Pan, Henry collapses, and Pan has won. So this is an episode. I want to start us off with something that might be funny. We'll see. Did you catch who voiced the Shadow?
No, I didn't.
It was Jordan Peele.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Absolutely, I am. It was not Jordan Peele.
Man!
I wanted to make the joke so badly.
How hilarious would that have been?
That would have been amazing. I've been waiting to make that joke for weeks, but no, this might make it worse. I don't really know. It was voiced by Marilyn Manson. I don't know how much money they gave that man to say like 5 lines.
Are you serious?
I am serious. He's actually, I'd never caught it before because I'd never really paid attention to the guest star credits. But in the very beginning, when they do like the guest starring in the credits on the bottom of the screen, his name is there. So it 100% certain it's Marilyn Manson.
I don't like that. Okay.
Neither do I. Luckily, I don't think we ever hear the Shadow speak again, so you're fine.
That was a choice.
That was a choice.
My notes start off very, very funnily, because you know how much I love backstory.
Yes.
I do enjoy it. I just went, holy shit, Rumple's childhood. Let's fucking go. I wrote that at the beginning of this.
You had so much hope.
I did. I even wrote, I was like, well, I'm not a huge fan of Rumple. I did want to know more about him because while he's not my favorite character, he is complex. And I want to know more as to why he ended up the way he did. Because up until now, we've only seen adulthood Rumple. So I was so excited. And then I just wrote, because the fucking bean, I went, of course, another fucking portal.
But here's the thing. Where did the spinsters get a bean is my question.
I have no idea. They kind of reminded me of like the Norns, in all honesty. Like they gave me that energy a little bit.
I just love that Rumple in the end is raised by his 2 lesbian mommies, honestly.
I mean, that he is.
Yeah.
That he is. I did also thought, I'm like, I should not have been as surprised that Neverland was the destination when he
yeah.
used the beam. And then I had a moment with Neil.
Okay.
Like, Neil, I stop making me like Neil when he's telling his dad he has to make the elixir because it's the right thing to do. And I was like, don't make me like Neil.
Well,
No?
that's one thing. That was a smart choice on his part because he recognizes to an extent that right now he is in fact Rumpel's like moral compass. And like if he asks him to do something, he will do it.
I really liked that.
That's the right thing to do.
That's one of the few things I think I liked. I did really enjoy fucking charming. Here, in case your good looks fail you. I was like,
that was one of Bobby's favorite lines was, I'm not walking in there with nothing but my good looks, and then Killian going, nor I. Yeah, here in case your good looks fail you. I wrote down, David, you really got to work harder to act as though you're not in love with Killian.
I wrote down, I was like, they had to have had a blast filming this. Just
I can imagine.
Portion alone of those two doing that.
Yeah, this was an episode that had audio commentary with Bobby and the two writers, so I'll try and sprinkle some stuff in as I can before I go into the deeper dive of the fun stuff that Bobby talked about, because he had a lot of fun stuff to say about filming this episode, even though we don't, in case you couldn't tell, I don't think we personally care for this episode.
I have beef with these writers.
But it was a funny moment to, especially for the writers that, they wrote the episode, that was one of their favorite lines to write, and that was one of his favorite lines in the entire episode. So.
It's a good line. Pan dying was interesting. I was like, all right, the place where no one ages, but he's gonna die. All right, that's a twist. The shadow will always be fucking creepy. And now I'm realizing even more so after you told me who voices it is even more creepy. No, thank you.
No.
I wrote, this is finally getting interesting to me. Rumpel being the only one being able to get through. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
And then they did their weird, put your hands in the air, do what I'm doing.
I will never get over the fact that their solution to, we cast shadows. If we fix our shadows, we can go through. That makes logical sense, is we no longer cast shadows. But what they start with is the moon. They're in a cavern full of torches. There are so many places that can cast a shadow, and you start with a lunar eclipse.
But with that, like, once you're further into the cave, the moon's not really doing anything in there.
I mean, the idea was that you need to not cast a shadow to go through the protection spell. Once you're through, you're fine.
The moon. Let's eclipse the moon. Okay.
Let's.
And then I did write, I said, what the fuck, when Rumpel gave up him to the shadow. Yeah. And then the next thing, you already know. I literally wrote, you've got to be fucking kidding me. What the absolute fuck?
So did you not figure out that he was Pan until that moment?
Yeah, I had no idea.
Okay. I was curious.
Because I'm sitting, I'm like, all right, Rumpel's dad. This will be interesting. Are they going to meet Peter Pan when they get into Neverland? Like, I really was. I thought he'd pop up or something, because then the shadow pops up. I'm like, all right, what's going on? And then that happens. And I almost paused it, but I was like, nope, let's get this over with. And I sat here, I wrote it, but I said that out loud before I wrote it down. Speaking to nobody, of course. Like,
I mean, that's what these are like. We are watching these by ourselves usually.
So I what the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah. It's Daddy Peter Pan.
Oh God. No. No.
I really was expecting you to text me in very similar to last week. What's your middle name? I need to yell at you properly. I was very much expecting, okay, remind me your last name so I could really yell at you properly. I was expecting that.
No, I've got that saved.
Okay.
I think I was just so angry when I finished this. I remember sending you, I think, what the absolute fuck, actually, in a text message.
I think so.
And then a GIF.
Yes.
And I was just so distraught and angry. I'm angry. That's what you go with? What?
I will say this. This is me going into my little academic thing here. I don't personally agree with it. This is never a plot point or a twist that I found particularly compelling. I think it almost cheapens a lot of his motives.
Yep.
I don't think it makes him any more compelling. I mean, honestly, him being a power-hungry, I want to be immortal asshole is enough of a twist on Peter Pan. We don't have to add this. I will say this to play devil's advocate, because that's what I do.
In everything.
in everything in life.
Even in life, guys. I cannot text Lauren and be like, "Can I bitch about this?" Yeah, but you're gonna get devil's advocate.
If you tell me not to, I will stop it. That's not my default. I like nuance. What can I say? I will say from a writerly perspective, it makes sense that when you're in this world of very outlandish characters, of, you've got Peter Pan and Captain Hook and Snow White and Rumpelstiltskin, all sorts of stuff. It's all very outlandish. It's all very hard to ground things in. What's very easy for viewers to latch onto is some level of familial connection. So it may be hard when it comes to having people relate to characters like Peter Pan who are out for immortality. But to an extent, a lot of viewers understand strained parent-child relationships. They understand strained sibling relationships. They understand strained co-parenting relationships. It's a very easy way to get your viewers to connect with your characters because they understand that type of relationship. So from that perspective, I do understand it. However, this is a case where I really don't think it was needed.
I don't think so, because even just even leaving out, if you had completely taken out all of that and just had your storyline of okay, Peter Pan actually isn't immortal. That's enough reason for him alone, because the entire thing about Peter Pan, the original story, is never wanting to grow up.
Yeah.
He wants to stay a kid. And that right there is enough motive to do what he's doing, in my personal opinion. Because if you've been like this for hundreds of years, why would you want to give it up?
Exactly.
Especially on an island where you can literally say, give me a piece of cake, and a fucking piece of cake appears. That is purely enough motive to want to do what Peter Pan is doing.
I think this is just it's too much on top of the twist of him being a villain. Because you and I have said this both on recordings and not on recordings, that this twist on Pan, it took forever for us to get to the reason behind it.
So long.
It doesn't take this long ever again. Again, it may take this long to get to the exact reason, but you're gonna, I would say with Zelena, we don't really get her backstory, her starting to become the Wicked Witch of the West. We don't get that until 316. So that's 5 episodes into the arc ish. However, from the first episode that really heavily features her, you get a basic understanding of what it is that she's after.
But you already have a little bit of understanding of her as a character just from her own story.
She's also already a villain, which sets us up to believe that she's going to have these kinds of outlandish needs and desires, and she's going to be this villainous character. When you start with a character that people perceive as a hero, you got to give us a reason a little bit sooner than 8 episodes in. Now all we have is 3 episodes of downfall, basically, of his planet. He's seemingly won. We're going to see what happens in the next episode, where they're going to, the episode's called Save Henry. They're going to save Henry. But then there's going to be kind of a secondary plan that's going to put everything in motion for the second half of the season. So when you start with a heroic character, the expectations aren't set there. We kept saying every week, or you kept saying every week, why is he so evil? Why? I don't understand, because they gave us no reason to. I think if they had told us that the ultimate plan was his immortality earlier, it would have been less frustrating.
Well, and going on and on and on about how powerful he is. And I'm I still to this point don't see how powerful he is. It's not really super apparent. Yes, now he's immortal and has the magic of Neverland. But even from the beginning, they don't tell you about the magic of Neverland enough.
No.
So how am I supposed to know how powerful he is, how much magic is really going on here? They kept going on, we've got to save magic. What magic exactly are we speaking about? And then you finally get to this point, they're like, oh no, the magic of Neverland and the things that you're capable of doing here. And I'm like, why am I not finding this out until this big twist?
Yeah.
Y'all could have told me this information 4 episodes ago. And that way I would have some drive to keep going. The only reason I'm still going is you.
Yes, I am well aware. Hey, I told you from the beginning, we're going to be dragging through this part of the season.
My God.
Because Zelena is worth it. I promise.
Because as someone, I know you're not a huge fan of Peter Pan. But Peter Pan was one of those stories, because I saw it in so many iterations growing up, that I really, really did align myself with. I really loved it because you had this escape to Neverland. I didn't have a very easy childhood. And so that escape to Neverland is close to my heart. Watching Hook Not Pan, but there was like one Peter Pan movie that I really loved. I tried to get you to watch. Of course,
I
the
never
one
did. I never did.
you
watch
never
it.
watched it. It's a really good one. I enjoyed it.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. But they did like a classic Peter Pan. They didn't try to change the story all that much. It was Peter Pan.
Yeah.
But that one, you've got, of course, Hook with Robin Williams, and then
Fantastic movie.
even the one where Johnny Depp is in it, and it's about the guy who wrote Peter Pan.
Mm-hmm.
Heartbreaking story, but even that, like, it's just I've been watching that kind of stuff since I was little, and even the original cartoon, like the original cartoon's not my favorite, but I've been watching this stuff. I'm 30, like this has been a long time coming, and then I watched this, and I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? Let's add to the wreath. Woohoo! So much fun.
That never stops.
But Peter Pan being evil because he was a selfish adult that didn't, and doesn't want to be a parent and wants to be like, no.
Yeah, I think Peter Pan as a villain, I think it could work if we made a few choice changes.
Yes.
Not making him Rumple's father. I think that might be the first one. I think him. I would say maybe being the kid, like trying to escape responsibility. That I think that still kind of works for the selfishness, immortality kind of thing. I think that's our biggest change. And then again, like I said before, I think if we had any inkling of what he was actually after, because so much of this season, like it's so much focused on Pan saying he needs to get Henry to believe in him to do what he wants, and we hear the lie that he keeps telling Henry, but there's no reason for the viewers to care or understand.
Nope.
And I told you this before, I always wondered if my experiences in fandom, which I will not go into in depth here because it's just not the place for it, if that soured my view of this arc. Because I know it did, but I wondered if it really was solely that. And going back in the way that we've been doing this now, seeing a lot of it through your eyes and your frustration and me being able to really overanalyze the story structure this season, it's not just me. I do think there is a structural issue with this arc. And part of it might be with their decision to do the A and B half seasons because, they're trying to figure out how they want the story structure to work. And I really don't think they figure it out until season 4. Unfortunately, it takes a whole season. The first Pancake's not always the good one, so it's okay
to throw away.
It's okay to throw it away. We're going to throw away 3A. It's perfectly fine. But
I feel like it also did a disservice to, like, okay, we have this whole thing
it's too many shifts. I think that's the issue. It's too many.
But when it comes to Rumple's character, yes, while he is not my favorite, I've already spoken about how I like backstory. I like understanding why characters are the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at it from this standpoint, now that we have the information of what Rumple's father did to him, now we get to look back and go, okay, look what he did to Bellfire.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't fit right now in my mind.
That was something that they did talk about in the commentary about this cycle of repeating the same patterns. But that's what we've seen with Rumple the entire time is he's so intent on breaking the cycles from his father. We see the very beginning of season 1. He doesn't want to be perceived as the coward that his father was. And then he ultimately does the very cowardly things constantly. So the fact that he does do quite literally the exact same thing his father did, that does make sense to me because even though he constantly says he's intent on breaking these patterns, he's incapable because he just, at his core, he just can't. And again, this goes into the thing I said before about what I know from season 6. There actually is a reason why he's incapable. It's just they put it in the show in season 6. Balefire and Neil is the first one to really break those cycles because now that he knows that Henry is his son, now that he has him, he's doing everything he can to not abandon his son.
There's a millennial joke there.
I'm sure there is. That's what it is. It's breaking the cycles. And what we see a lot of times with the characters is sometimes it does take one or two, it takes like 2 generations to break these cycles.
This episode. I never want to watch this episode again. Like if we ever finish this and I decide to go back and watch through knowing all the information that I know by the end of this, I will be skipping 3A. Because I just don't want to watch it again.
Honestly, I think you're going to do the same thing that I'm going to do, that I do all the time. Like I said, I watch 3, 6, 9, and 11.
No, yeah, I think I'm with you on that one. Like
that's it.
I'm not yelling.
You're not yelling. We have a lot
of my volume because this is a recording, and I don't want to force you to edit yelling. Because that's not fun.
I appreciate that.
And then, of course, just to end it all off is just like, come on, Henry. Henry, you're a child. You're a child. You're
He
doing dumb shit.
he is a child. Pan is a cult leader. You know, he's very good at getting people to do what he wants. And Henry, he's using a lot of that heroic language, and Henry wants to be a hero. He thinks he's saving magic. And I mean, to be fair, he's only been on Neverland a week. We know this. It's only been about 5-6 days.
Yeah.
If that. Maybe probably just 5 days. But like, I mean, we saw this in the first season. This is what happened in the second to last episode. He wanted Emma to believe in him, so he ate the poison apple. He's a big fan of doing the thing people tell him not to do, and then it ends up hurting him.
Every freaking time.
Ooh, that's foreshadowing.
Oh, lovely.
For something that Regina will do. Fun. Okay. Although, to be fair, he doesn't do it quite in the same way that she does, but still.
Okay.
It's a good time.
This show, you keep saying that about this show, and here we are.
Yeah.
Like, love you. What the fuck, Lauren?
This is, I said this before. I apologized when we started this arc. I apologized because this is the only arc that I actively skip episodes. There are times in season 5 that I might consider it but never actually do it because I really do think, I mean, these 2 episodes, I'm just going to spoil this now. I gave this a 0 for personal. I don't think that's going to be that's not going to be a secret. But I think Lovely Thoughts and Dark Hollow are the only 0s for personal.
Okay.
Shall we say? I'm going to have 0s for other reasons.
Fair.
That's in the future. But this episode is a time, and it did come with commentary, so I do have some stuff to make this.
Give me something good,
something a little more fun than any of this that was happening. I don't have a ton of like fun facts that came from the wiki other than the Voice of the Shadow. And I just found it interesting that the only international title that wasn't some version of Think Lovely Thoughts was German this time. It's always French and German. And their episode was translated to The Lie at the End of Eternal Youth, which is very specific.
That is really specific.
But I'll go through my notes and then I'll go through the commentary notes just because I also had some fun things that I pulled out and some rants and lines and stuff to go on. But this is some continuity for you because I love this. Regina's wearing her jacket in that first scene with Regina and Rumpel, and then we see them meet up with the rest of the group. So Regina and Rumpel, their conversation is on a soundstage.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they break through the trees, that's in the Enchanted Forest. Regina has her jacket back. And this is that continuity from the beginning of they had their jackets when they got off the boat. Therefore, anytime it's cold enough, they can just bring them back for no apparent reason. And it does work with the continuity, which I always find very fun. Emma's insistence that there's a way to save David. Like, yes, Gold so here's my thing, is Gold having experience with the poison because he was poisoned by it and is alive is a little bit of a Deus Ex Machina.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit, but I'm not mad at it because honestly, I don't think there's really any other way to get him off the island other than bringing a lifetime supply of Neverland water. But Emma's line of family means being together, all of us. And I was like, at this point, I was just like, yes, Emma Swan, be like your mother. This side of her, I like. The kind who actually wants to be a hero and believes there's a way for them all to get what they want. This is another case where Emma is right and Snow isn't. Giving up and just staying in Neverland is not the only option here.
Yeah.
I don't really know where that idea came from for Snow. Like, I get that she doesn't want to leave Charming, but wasn't the whole point of all of this your child?
I'm just laughing a little bit because my brain just goes, pregnancy brain? Because technically...
Well, okay. At this point, Jennifer Goodwin is pregnant. Snow White is not. Snow, we'll see what happens with Snow getting pregnant the beginning of 3B.
Joy.
We'll see how that goes.
Excitement. You tell I don't like the pregnancy trope.
It's honestly, I mean, this was their best way of. I mean, you have a choice when actors come to you and say, "Hey, I'm pregnant. Let's figure this out." Either you write it into the show or you don't.
My favorite way any show has dealt with that, How I Met Your Mother, when they just kept putting ridiculous large things in front of her stomach, over and over again.
Well, they did that on The Nanny too, and a lot of times with the props they put on her were like baby focused, or like she would make a joke about watching another show that did it while like switching the giant bag or holding the giant thing, or they just had Niles make a lot of fat jokes that time, which wasn't always the best choice, but it does get the point across.
But no, I always love that they're like, we're just gonna put this big bag in front, we're gonna put food in front of, like, everything you could put in front of somebody.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite way that they have actually written one, like also with that though, was Brooklyn Nine-Nine. When she got pregnant, I forget her name.
I can tell you the actor's name if you give me a character.
I can't remember the character's name because it's been a while since I've watched it. Is my problem. It made me so sad, and now one of the characters is dead. Melissa Fumero.
Okay.
When she was pregnant, and so the way they didn't write it in completely, they hid it for a while, but then they decided, okay, for this episode, because you're super pregnant, we're gonna put you undercover. And so they did. She was like, they made me wear this thing to be pregnant, but she's actually pregnant. Like
there you go
in the scene. So there's fun ways of doing it.
Yeah. In the case of, I mean, so they write in Ginny's first pregnancy. Her second pregnancy, they run the tactic of let's just put her in giant coats all the time.
I mean, that works.
And honestly, it worked.
But like, please not another baby.
No. And then there's one other, because also their timeline, it wouldn't make sense if she was pregnant again. And then one other character. So my thing with the way they wrote in that pregnancy is the actor and the character are pregnant at the same time. However, to varying degrees.
Oh.
Because when the character finds out that she's pregnant, the actor is like, I don't know, 5-6 months pregnant, and then gives birth at the end, gives birth after the season wraps, and then you get to the beginning of the next season, and she has to be very pregnant, and her child is like 5 months old.
Oh, no.
So, like, they did write in the pregnancy, but not in a way that helped her not have to wear giant coats all the time. It was a choice.
Fun.
It was a choice. But this was a part of Neil's involvement in the episode that I liked of I don't trust you if I can stop you, when he asked him to give him the Pandora's box. I said, that might be the first intelligent thing you've said all season, Neil.
Like I said, don't make me like Neil.
No, he had some good points.
He did.
One thing I hated that they did this, and when I listened to the commentary, I kind of later figured out kind of why they did this. When they had kind of all of the heroes all say a little bit of the plan as they figured it out. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, they had, I think I wrote down the one at the end with Emma, Regina, and Neil, with "We believe in you, Henry, because we love you, Henry, because we believe in you." Oh, no, we believe in you because we love you more than anything. I don't know what I wrote there, but like they had them each say a little bit. I'm like, can we stop with each person says one part of the whole sentiment shtick? It's not good. Why do it twice? Because originally, what they wanted to do with the spinsters was they wanted them to be 3 of them, kind of like the 3 witches from Macbeth. Kind of saying things one word at a time, but they took that out because it just slowed the whole thing down. But they still put in that kind of sentiment. I'm like, why? Out of like Shakespearean plays, why do it?
Yeah, like it actually would have made more sense with the other, like with the spinsters.
I think so too. I think it would have made more sense as a prophecy versus the way they did it, kind of like almost like a Criminal Minds. Everyone says a little bit of the profile like scene.
See, that's why I got the whole thing. I'm like, they feel like the Norns. It's like, I got that feeling still from the spinsters, but that's not, like, it was, you know.
The actor who played Malcolm, I think he did a fantastic job because he very much got a lot of Bobby's mannerisms and the way that he changed his voice, and sometimes almost sounded like Dark One Rumple when he spoke.
And the giggle.
Because apparently he came prepared with a Scottish accent. That's what they, I guess, because Bobby is Scottish, and there is a Scottish lilt to Rumpelstiltskin. That's not what he could really use for the character, considering Robbie has not been using a Scottish accent, and that would be weird. So they had him kind of do some kind of muddled version of like the London accent that Robbie had been using. He's from Manchester, the actor, so a little bit of his Manchesterian accent. I don't know what that would be called. And he did throw in some Scottish lilts here and there, which I think worked really well with the character, because you still want him to sound a little bit like, you want him to sound like the kid, but also you want him to sound like Bobby as well. Yeah. This was, my brain is not working while I'm watching this episode, because I was watching this while on FaceTime with our friend, with Sammy, and in the scenes when they were rowing towards Skull Rock, what I wrote down in my notes was, "Sha la 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 my oh my, look like the boy too shy, I gotta kiss girl." Because that's what it looked like. Apparently, though, that was an entirely green stage with them on the boat. There was no water. That's all CGI. What it was them, I guess, in the boat on some kind of green block with a stunt guy or a grip or somebody in a green morph suit rocking the boat.
That's fun. Okay.
I love finding out about these things. It's just like the weirdest ways that they could possibly have filmed these things. Because like I would have assumed they have built lakes and they have built pools for the show before. So like I'm kind of wondering why they don't like. I mean, I guess if you don't need it exactly week to week, there's no point in having it. And I guess Joanna wasn't always in a soundstage.
Yeah,
but like they've built them before, so I kind of feel like at least maybe this could be it, because considering what we learned about Jennifer Goodwin with the lake in 110, where she just kept crashing the boat into the dock, maybe they figured let's just never do that again. Just possibly part of it. But so there was some foreshadowing in this season that Pan was his father.
Where?
The biggest one being in episode 204, and multiple times I believe throughout the season. Or sorry, 304, and multiple times throughout the season. Pan calls Rumple Laddie.
I don't see it. Wait, what's that mean?
Well, he calls him Laddie, and then we hear Malcolm call Rumple Laddie as well.
Oh, I mean I don't see it though. Like,
but that's a detail that you have to see going back and watching it later.
Yeah, like that doesn't really tell me Dad. That just
like the fact that
Peter Pan is weird.
Well, that's the connection. That's like you hear him call him that. Okay. You hear him call him that as an adult, or the fact that Pan knew how he liked his breakfast.
See, and I just thought like childhood friend or something.
I mean, that's a natural. Most people don't go into this assuming Pan is actually an adult who gave up his adulthood because he doesn't want responsibility. Like most people don't go into this thinking that, but
I feel like Rumple wasn't angry enough though.
Because he still loves his father. So much of what Bobby said he pulled into this was just like, he's still his father. Like the way, I mean, like, and which is, I think, partially why Rumple wants Neil to forgive him so much, because Pan still holds so much affection for his father. That's why he hopes that Neil would hold the same affection for him. And it's frustrating and upsetting that he doesn't, because he really royally screwed up his kid.
Oh yeah.
But my last line that I pulled out before, and I'll get into the commentary notes. Pan, when they're about to, when Emma, Regina, and Neil are trying to convince Henry to not give over his heart, because that's a smart thing. Pan goes, "It's what adults do. They lie. You're 400 years old. Shut the fuck up."
Oh yeah.
Like, just because you're physically 17 does not mean that you are not an adult. All right. So the commentary, like I said before, was Bobby, David H. Goodman, and Robert Hull. So, like I think I've said this before, David H. Goodman and Robert Hull, for the most part, they tend to write my lowest scored episodes, and that tends to ring true. Because mostly what they get is Rumpelstiltskin episodes, which they aren't personally my favorite. But it does work sometimes to their benefit, because like they said, it helped that they wrote this one and they wrote Nasty Habits 304, because that helped them bridge that foreshadowing of Rumple. He tore off his shadow in the cold open of 304. And now the fact that he doesn't have a shadow means he can cross through the protection spell. Like, that's an important detail that helps that the same writers wrote both episodes. But they did ask Bobby what it was like to see the younger version of himself and the kid playing him. And he did actually say he compared some photos of himself at that age to the actor, and there was a very strong resemblance. And he said the actor looked a little bit like his youngest son, who was the son who had the voice inspiration for him for The Dark One.
I like that. See, there's aspects I like.
Yeah, like, the thing is, I think the stuff that Bobby pulls out of this, like, because this is what I love about the commentary that he's involved in. He talks so much about the process as well as what it was like filming on the day. He talks about kind of all of it, and like he finds ways of talking about all of it. Some people will just kind of talk, like the writers just talk about what they can talk about, which is the writing of the episodes, and like some actors, they kind of just talk about sometimes what it was like filming on the day, sometimes the process, but like he finds a way of talking about all of it. And I really enjoy listening to his commentary, because he pulls out like such like gems of things that I would not have considered before. So what I said before about the continuity with the fact that the conversation with Regina Rumple was on a soundstage, and the conversation with everybody was in the forest out in Vancouver somewhere. He made a joke. He's like, Neverland, which is basically a 10-yard by 10-yard box. Like, it's like kind of like the cavern set, like I talked about in the season 2 finale, that the cavern set is basically, you go down a way, there's a corner, and then that's it. Like, they just have to redress it and re-angle it. He's like, that's basically what this is. He's like, we walked, and what it looks like we're turning a corner, what we actually did was back up, and they re-angled things, and like, so he's like, props to every director that came in and made it look like we were walking through these expanses of land, because really we're taking about 25 steps and then turning around.
Oh my God. That's impressive.
He said, like, with each cut of the conversation with Golden Regina, they essentially back up 10 feet, change the angle, and make it look like they turned a corner. It was quite a technical exercise for even a small scene that's just a conversation between two people. That can be quite technical, because you have to keep the conversation flowing between cuts, because the conversation's the conversation, but they only have so much set space to work with.
So that is very impressive. Wow.
That's like like the way I say this is a well-crafted show. I always say that, and I stand by that statement. It's not always the most well-written show, as we've discussed the entirety of this episode. But technically, it's always a very well-crafted episode, I feel like. Even if the CGI always kind of looks a little I always give them props for that, mainly because they get about 8 to 9 days to make a lot of CGI that other productions would get years to build.
Oh yeah, and the CGI was definitely different 10 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is 10, 11 years ago, actually. Yeah, I know. So the kid who played young Rumpel is not Scottish. That was him putting on an accent. I think he did a great job.
He did a great job. For
being like probably like 7, 8 years old. I think he did a fantastic job.
I can't even do that. Good job, kid.
I can't do Scottish accents. My Irish accents always end up turning into Australian accents. I don't know why.
That's kind of funny.
It's always confusing. Something that the writers did, they wondered, was like if Rumpel at that young age could carry the entire episode. But like I said before, what they really wanted to do and see with this was how things repeat themselves. And like we said, it's a lot of generational cycles, a lot of generational trauma, and there is a reason why Rumpel is more or less incapable of breaking it, and it will just take until season 6 to see that, unfortunately.
Fun.
It's not just his dependency on the darkness, but also I think the reason behind it kind of informs his reliance on the darkness, now that I think about it. It does make sense. Because he has a core bit of himself missing. There's something missing. Something has happened there's something missing in that happened in his childhood that he needs to be a stronger man, and he doesn't have it, and it's not his fault. So they did ask Bobby, like, about playing a character who's so much in the gray area. Like, they're like, no, you can play heroes that are, they're on the more pure side. You've got, a lot of villains who are really good at being villains, but then you have these people that kind of sit in the gray, and Rumpel seems to almost kind of like thrive in the gray. And like he said, like, it's not easy, but it is truthful. And like it's not 100% easy in Rumpel, even when he's at his worst. He's still generally got a point though, and that's what the audience responds to, which I do agree. A lot of times it's frustrating, but he's usually right.
It's extremely frustrating because you're just kind of like, but he's evil, but he's got a point.
He always has a point, and like he's usually very, very similar to Pan. I will say this: Pan, for the most part, with the exception of what he actually wants out of Henry, he doesn't lie for the most part. He's very specific with his word choice. He says something's going to happen, it's going to happen. He says Neil's at the Echo Caves. Neil's in the Echo Caves. He says that the map will, the map will reveal everything they need once Emma stops denying who she is, and that's exactly how it works. And like it's very similar. And actually, you know what? I'm realizing this. I said this in the beginning, and this was me trying to hint at the fact that Pan was his father. I said that he toys with people the way that he toys with words.
Ah,
I did that. I'm smart. Ha! It's a very similar mentality that Rumpel has taken on as well as Belle. I love that line of Belle's because it sums up Rumpel so well. If you toy with people the way you toy with words. So, but it's especially for people that like Rumpel. Again, we're never going to ask anybody, can you justify your opinions here? Because that defeats the purpose of opinions.
I can not like Rumpel as a character all that much, but still appreciate what they're doing with his character.
Exactly. That's exactly where I am. Because so I posted a video one time. Oh, I did a it was a smash or pass, and I said while I was doing it, I'm like, there are a few characters in here that are probably automatic passes, and one of them was Rumpel. And someone went like, "Oh my god, how is he an automatic pass?" And I'm like, because he is. And then I posted in an amateur ADR the next day, 2 days later, that heavily featured him. It wasn't one of my best ones, but it was still fun to do. Mm-hmm. And the same person commented, if you don't like the character, like, how can you like do this kind of video and all with him like being so in it? And I'm like, I can dislike the character while still enjoying the performance. They are two different things.
Yeah.
Like, and mostly I was doing the video because of Cruella, not because of Rumple, but that's beside the point.
But he's still in it. Like,
he's in the scene.
What are we supposed to do?
There's very few characters that I have a hard time watching their performances. We've said this the entire time about Rumple. We really don't like his character, but we appreciate the performance, and we think Robert Carlyle did a phenomenal job with it because
exactly,
like from we get in all these commentaries and all these interviews that he does, he puts so much thought into it.
He does a phenomenal job, and I actually got excited when I was excited when this episode started. I was like, we're gonna get Rumple backstory. Yes, let's fucking go. Yeah. It's not what I expected it to be, sadly.
No.
But even though I'm not a huge fan of his character, I want to know more. I want more.
Exactly.
But like, not all characters are meant to be likable, and I feel like people miss that sometimes. They're like, well, but you don't like the character. Why do you engage? Not all characters are meant to be likable. You can still want more and see more and want to learn more and still not like the character.
It's a big nuance thing, I think, with a lot of younger viewers, that you can enjoy a character without liking them.
Yes.
Like, they are two very different things. Like, there are things about characters that we'll see as the show goes on that, like, I really don't agree with what they do with their character. I don't like what the person is doing. It makes sense for the character. It makes sense for the story. But I enjoy the crap out of the performance because it's so compelling to watch. Like, there's stuff about like Regina that I don't like that they do with her. There's so much about Regina that I don't like that they do with her. And like the thing I see, I mean, I've said this before, like with the 107 episode, like what happened with Graham. I see so many Regina apologists of like trying to justify why that's an okay thing that she did. And I'm like, honeys, you can disagree with that while still enjoying the character.
And like, she is a villain.
Like, she is a villain. And that is an empirically bad thing that she did. But
villains do bad things.
Exactly. And I think I think a lot of our current writing is missing that nuance. Like I went on my rant about what they took out of More Unfortunate Souls in the new Little Mermaid a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So we're missing a lot of nuance from the viewers, which leads to missing a lot of nuance in the writing. But I think that's one thing that Once Upon a Time does keep is a lot of that nuance. Unfortunately, they put a little too much nuance in Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit much.
So about halfway through the episode, Bobby just started playing, are we in the studio or are we outside? He just kind of started playing that throughout the commentary. So the scene where they're all going towards Pan's camp once the group is all together was again in the studio. And he went, okay, I think this is the same bit of studio from the conversation with Regina and Rumple, but just in the other direction.
Nice.
He's just like playing it, and that's when the writers then start going, you're like Wile E. Coyote, always walking past the same rock. And then one of them made a joke, oh, this is why we can't find Henry. We keep walking in a circle.
Okay, I like that.
Like they were pointing out like the absurdity of all of this.
Well, maybe they should take another look at the absurdity that is this story.
That is their own writing.
Their own writing.
They all of them cracked up because so the set that was Pan's encampment, basically as much as we see, that's the whole set. Basically, once you go past that frame, it doesn't go any wider. It's just that's it. So it's a very small set for a lot of actors to be in that space of. But they all cracked up when he says to Regina, do you remember the spell? And she just gives him the death glare of like, yes, I remember the spell, you idiot. They all started laughing. Because that's one thing, none of them said if that was in the script or not, or if that was just Lana. I want to believe it was Lana.
I want to believe that too, personally. I could see Lana doing that.
Absolutely, I could. A fun fact to kind of blow your mind a little bit, the girl who plays Wendy, at the time of filming, was 22 years old.
No.
Apparently.
What?
Oh, I'm going to double check, but that's what they said in the commentary, was that she was about 22 or 23 years old at the time of filming. She's very short, but also very good at playing a child. She's an Australian actress. Her name is Freya Tingley. Yeah, she's a year older than she's a year older than me.
She's a year between us?
She was more, her birthday is March 1994.
Oh my god, I'm only like 2 months older than her.
Yeah, she was so at the time of filming, or the time this was released, basically, yeah, she was 21 years old when it was filmed.
I'm like I'm 2 months older than her.
So she did a fantastic job.
What the fuck?
That was amazing.
Not that we needed another fuck in this episode, but what the fuck?
Hey, we gave them a content warning.
We did.
We absolutely did. So I was saying before about the... Yeah, I know, right? I was saying before about the big scenes. They were saying, and I think the writers that did the commentary for 302 were saying that writing big scenes with a lot of characters is a challenge to write because you want to make sure everyone, has enough scenes you're parsing out. You want to make sure everyone's, has the dialogue. You have some people in frame. You want to make sure everyone's alive and necessary. But as a viewer, when you have such a strange family with Snow and Charming being the same age as Emma, you've got villains, a fairy, a pirate. It's fun to watch, even if it is a challenge for them to write and subsequently to film, because Bobby said from an acting perspective, when there's gaps, you have lines here and there, and the talent and the skill there is to keep your concentration and stay connected. The onus is on everyone in the scene to keep up that energy the entire time. And there were a lot of these big scenes with a lot of characters in 3A, because there's nowhere else for anyone else to be. Mm-hmm. Like in 3B, you're not going to get as many big scenes with like 7 different characters in them. At least not with 7 different characters that all have lines for the most part. Like there's going to be some bigger scenes, but like they're going to really be parsed out throughout the room or something. Like you can have a lot of people in grannies for one thing, but like there's going to be more like smaller conversations happening rather than one big confrontation. And if there is a one big confrontation, it's really just 2 people talking and everyone else is like, what the hell is going on? Mm-hmm. This is like not the last time for a while, but it kind of does. Yeah, it feels like last time for a while that we're going to see a lot of people all in one scene together. So they did ask him a lot more about the green stages and all that because it's such a big acting challenge, I feel like, to act against nothing. Like we said, they're in a boat with a guy in a morph suit rocking the boat for you. Like it's
like
weird.
It can show your skill as an actor, but it can also be detrimental to a lot of older actors, I will say. Yeah. There's like a behind the scenes thing from The Hobbit, which we are reading.
Yes.
Where Sir Ian McKellen, he throughout Lord of the Rings, there was no green. That was everything. They did everything. It was all practical, pretty much, for Lord of the Rings. They did not do that approach for The Hobbit. It's a shit ton of green screen. Yeah. And there is a scene where he's sitting at the table in the first movie in Bilbo's house, which you'll read about. And he's supposed to be talking to a group of dwarves, and there's no one around him, and he's trying to get his lines out, and he just gets so frustrated and puts his hands, like his face in his hands, because he's not. This is a stage actor, Ian McKellen. Yeah, he's God. How old is he now? He's been doing this for so long, and you could see the frustration of him having to do green screen because he's just like, this isn't. The man's a Shakespearean actor. This is not what he does. He did a great job still, but seeing the behind the scenes of how frustrated he got, like it's not for everybody. It's hard. It's very hard work.
Yeah. Something Bobby said that he's like, at the very beginning it was difficult because there's nothing to play off of. Like it's him in a room and like they have tape marked off and there's a lot of bloopers of people going like, wait, no, you can't stand there. You're in the fireplace or you just went through a wall. Try that again. But he found it easier because being on Once Upon a Time, he learned to really enjoy it because Rumple, especially the dark one, is a very big theatrical kind of character. And in that kind of space of nothingness, you have to fill that space with your performance. And I think it really informed the way he played Rumple is what he said. Like, you've got a character, when you've got a character that's a little bit smaller, it's a little harder to balance that to fill that space and make it seem natural. But for Rumple to be as big and theatrical as he wants to be, it works really well to kind of be opposite nothing because he can be as big as he needs to be. And it worked really well for him at the end of the day. More about his process because I found this, he was being so like earnest and so vulnerable in this commentary, which was like, because this is a very vulnerable episode for the character. Dave asked, when it comes to the process of the flashbacks, like, at the very beginning, Bobby presumably had to come up with some kind of flashback or some kind of backstory for his character. And now we have written it. How do you balance that? And he said, like, no, the character has to be flexible. I have to be flexible. Early on, nothing's been written. But you need something to inform your own performance. So it's important to be flexible and prepare to adapt. But with Rumple, he'd always wanted to try to make him difficult to understand and love, but also not difficult at the same time. Like he's got a lot of very relatable issues. I didn't actually change our burger of the day. I forgot to. but our burger of the day was the Think Lovely Thoughts burger. Comes with more abandonment issues because there's a lot of those.
A lot.
But especially for this, he took a lot of influences from his life. And one thing he took, because they asked him a lot about the doll, because that was very important, because the first time we see Rumple with the doll, all we see is him pick it up and start crying.
Yeah.
Like, we have no context for it. And we see it, this episode goes on, it's the doll that his father gave him that he lost when he also lost his father. And he says Peter Pan is gone, like there's no coming back. So for that, what he pulled was a moment from when he was a kid, and his dad took him to see the Aristocats in theaters. And
Aww.
when they left the cinema, because his family, they were not well off, they did not have a lot of money. It was one of the first times he'd seen like movie merch in a cinema, and they had stuffed toys of a lot of the different cats. And
Aww.
he said the blue one, so I'm thinking the one he was talking about was Scat Cat, I think, because it was from the musicians. So his dad got him that toy of Scat Cat from the Aristocats, and that he had that with him all the time for years. So he took the feeling of that toy, and that's what he used to inform that performance. And that's what makes all this feel so grounded, because he put so much thought into it.
Okay, but Aristocrats is so good.
Aristocats is such a good movie. But like, it's this like, I stand by. I really hate Rumpelstiltskin, but I love Bobby's performance. The more and more I learned about how much thought he put into all this and how much work he put into creating these characters, like, it's hard to hate. It's hard to hate the performance.
It really is. Like, it's reached this point where like, oh, we hate Rumple, but like at the same time, we love Bobby. He's so amazing, and
he really is.
And throughout this entire podcast, every time we start shitting on Rumple, every time it's like, but we love Bobby, not Bobby. We love Bobby. The character he plays sucks, but he does a really good job at playing the shitty character.
Exactly.
Like, he brings, which is why I was so surprised to see the backstory. I was like, all right, what's Bobby going to do with this? Like, it really was that feeling of like, I want to see what he does with this, because it will die on the hill of, you can still enjoy a character you don't like.
Exactly. So I'll do my little bit about the actor who played Malcolm, and then Bobby and Robbie's, which is hard. God.
You got this.
So many names. Bobby and Robbie's, because I can't say Robert, because there's also Robert Hull.
Yeah.
So I'll do my rant, or not my rant, I'll read through the bit that they said about Stephen, who played Malcolm, and Bobby and Robbie's relationship. But before we get into that, Katie, what did you score this phenomenal episode?
Okay.
I can't even say that with a straight face. So
I gave plot 4. Okay. Because while it's so infuriating, the backstory, Rumple's backstory is not all we get here. Mm-hmm. We get more of everything going on with David, everything, like all the other stuff going on at the same time. Like, I really actually gave the points more for what other things were going on and everything going on with Henry. When it comes to the backstory, all those points are gone. Because of
no points for you.
Peter Pan. Character, I gave 5. But Regina, Bobby does a phenomenal fucking job. The kid did a great job. I mean, seriously, like, the characters did a great job. Yeah. Like, the actors did a great job. I really enjoy the characters. But still only a 5.
Okay.
I gave personal a 2.
Okay.
Because, once again, everything that was not going on, specifically with Malcolm / Peter Pan, was still good. Mm-hmm. They had some redeeming qualities. Only 2 points worth. But some redeeming, this is like the lowest score I've given anything ever, a 2. I don't think I've ever gone lower than a 2.
No, you haven't.
Like, this low. So, all in all, Think Lovely Thoughts gets 11.
Okay. So I already said I gave it a 0 for personal. It's very similar to Dark Hollow. When given the option, I skipped this episode, and the fact that I had to watch it twice wasn't exactly fun. I did greatly enjoy listening to the commentary, but I don't really count that in enjoyment of watching the episode, quite frankly. Yeah. That's almost like
watching Bobby.
I enjoyed Bobby. It's almost like watching an interview at that point. Because, again, like, he does that. Most of his commentaries are the ones that I like, where you cannot hear the episode at all. They did this very smart thing, though, of he went, wait, my favorite line's coming up here. I'm not going in there with nothing but my good looks, and then went back to talking. Like, they did that, but, like, you can barely hear the episode. I gave plot a 10. I don't care for it, but there's so much of it. Like I'm aware. This is not a case. This is not a case of. This is such a weird score. It's not a case of enjoyment. The 10 is not there for enjoyment. The 10 is there because it's everything that you've been asking about the entirety of the season all happens in this episode.
Why it happens all in one episode.
It's all of it's the why, it's the who is he, it's the what's actually happening here. There's, we have the plan to save David. There's so much plot that I couldn't give it anything less than a 10 because this is your climactic episode.
Okay, that's fair.
This is your climax. I couldn't give it anything less than a 10. However, for character, I gave it a 3.
Oh my god.
This is such a weird score because
it is.
I like the Rumpelstiltskin backstory. I like the conversations about the cycles of abandonment and how it works to break that or not break that, as the case may be. I liked Regina's few sassy moments. I liked Regina and Emma working together.
Yeah.
I liked so much of it.
Henry's mommies finally do well together.
But the parts of it that I liked are such a small part of the episode that it only gets a 3. So this gets a 13.
I got lower than you.
You did. Well, that's. I mean, the fact that you've been doing better than me recently, that was abnormal because I tend to give things a lot more grace than you do because I know what's happening. But then, to be fair, since I know what's happening, I can give things lower scores.
See, I'm just so angry still. I'm going to be angry for. Look, like I told you on the phone earlier, I'm going to be angry this week, and then I'm going to cry next week.
You are going to cry next week.
So,
I say with such glee.
I know. I would like you to stop putting me through intense emotions. Do I get a week where I just get to smile and be happy? What am I saying? This is a Disney production. I'm going to shut up now. Never mind. It's Disney.
Say it's Disney. It's a Disney soap opera. I think a week where you get to just smile and be happy and enjoy the chaos would be 312.
Good God.
That's not too far, though.
Still, though, that's like a month away.
But to be fair, okay, the week, maybe not, I mean, you probably will be enjoying it the week that we watch it, but you'll get to smile through the recording of 313. That's the one with the British accent.
Yay! We're almost there.
We're almost there. We are 5 episodes away from the British accent. So you're almost there.
Y'all, I don't know how I'm going to do that.
I don't know either, quite frankly.
I'm already, messing up my words.
In case you haven't figured it out already, Katie, for whatever reason, gets flustered when I talk like this.
Just a little bit.
Just a tiny bit. I don't know how you're going to last through Rebecca Mader, quite frankly, and she's in the rest of the show. She's where I got this voice. To be fair, when I do it like this, kind of not caring too much, I don't sound a whole lot like her, but when I really try and do something very specific with my voice and I change the accent a little bit, this is modeled after her in Once Upon a Time specifically. Her natural accent is a little more all over the place, but when she's on the show, it's very much, you weren't even going to say hello first. That's not exactly the welcome I was expecting.
So I made it through Peter Pan, almost. We're almost there. I've almost made it through Peter Pan. If I make it through Peter Pan, I get that. So I'm okay with this.
You make it through Peter Pan, you get the sexy British lady.
Sexy British lady.
Whose credit literally is super hot lady. We'll get to that when we record 313. We'll get to that then, but
I will continue to watch the weirdest shit just to be able to see a hot lady, apparently. So
this is true.
Hey, we've already had enough. I'm too gay for this. So
this is true. Oh, just you wait.
Oh fuck.
So my last few things from the commentary. So the actor, Stephen is the actor who played Malcolm. I did not write down his last name. I forgot what it is. He came in with a very Stephen. He came in with a very different take on Malcolm than everybody else. Originally, the take that the writers had was that he was going to be a little more remorseful when it comes to letting go of his son, but he came in with more of a huckster kind of consman kind of. That's not the word, but
I get what you're
con
saying.
Man. More of a con man kind of attitude from the beginning. And he always kind of had that taste of he was clearly a guy who was out for his own best interest over his child's from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting and to think that if it could work, and they decided to pick the best actor because he really was the best choice, even if his choice was different, over an actor who's not as good, but who plays it the way they want them to.
Yeah.
I think he really was the better choice. And they reiterate that the audience at that point they were saying this during the scene right before he lets Rumple go. That the audience has a bad feeling about this guy the whole time, But it doesn't change the fact that this scene is heartbreaking. And he plays it not as remorseful as they would have thought in their head, but the choice is perfect. And the fact that they use the word remorseful is very important for next week.
Okay. All right.
Because there is going to be a moment about regret and remorse that I will probably go on a very long linguistics tangent about next week.
I like linguistics.
Yes. But lastly, Bobby talks a lot about his relationship with Robbie because they worked a lot together throughout the season. And I mean, Robbie was a newer actor. He was 17, 18-ish when they were filming. And I mean, to go toe-to-toe with Robert Carlyle, who's, you know, a very esteemed and very established actor, you know, it takes a lot of chops to do that. But they were the only two to know from the beginning of the season that Pan was his father. The rest of the cast didn't know. The crew didn't know. Basically, Adam and Eddie just called him up and told him the plan. And they're like, here's what we roughly know about what's happening. And it's not as ridiculous as it sounds. And then I added in, although it does actually sound extremely ridiculous. And it is extremely ridiculous.
Okay, let's say the once upon a time sentence. Rumpelstiltskin's dad is actually Peter Pan, and Peter Pan stole his great grandson's heart to get all of the magic from Neverland to always be immortal. But also his great grandson's mother.
He's gonna keep going.
No, I'm gonna keep going. Had him with, you know, Balefire, but then also the evil queen adopted him because she gave him up at birth. But his maternal grandparents are also Snow White and Prince Charming.
Don't forget that his adoptive grandmother is the Queen of Hearts.
Fuck me.
You know what? People have asked me so many times, hey, can you just do a video where you talk about the family tree? I'm just going to give them that. Here you go.
There you go. And that is only up until season 3, episode 8.
Yeah, you're still missing quite a few branches there, but it's a good chunk of it.
There's more.
But wait, there's more.
Oh my God.
There's one thing there's a few things you've said that I can't wait to be like, hey, remember when you said this? Because you said something about it does it really count as incest if you weren't raised together? I really want you to hold on to that one.
What?
There's not actual incest on the show, but there is something that I'm going to be bringing up about that. But you said that.
I know I said it, but I'm like, wait a minute. What's happening in Once Upon a Time?
There's no actual incest. I've said it before. There's never actual incest.
Oh no.
But
oh no. What's gonna I don't know. This is enough. I've already had the weird daddy Peter Pan. Can we move on now?
Yes.
Let me go cry instead.
Let's get so our last thing we talked about the Pandora's box prop because it was a really cool prop.
Yes.
Apparently the spinning aspect of it was practical. Like there was a lever on the bottom that you click it and like when he makes the motion and then the top spins and everything else is the CGI. Mm-hmm. But apparently so in that scene, before I get to that, that scene was really easy for Bobby to play off of Robbie with that because he felt like there was such a maturity to Robbie to see him on screen and how he played it. And he said in that moment, like he really, he said that he loves to watch younger actors because he feels like he learns a lot from the way that they work, like their passion, their intensity, what they're going to do with things and all of that. And the emotions on Rumpel's face because he's looking at, he's acting as if he's looking at his father because he is. And, a little bit of what helped him was he almost like when acting with Robbie, he almost kind of saw Steven's face in his stead. Like that's kind of like what he imagined to kind of get those emotions. He saw like the actor who played his father, which was very important to make that scene feel really, really grounded. But the funny thing about the Pandora's box prop is it was practical. So he has to make the motion for it to go. But so many times the practicality of it and the lever didn't work. So what they end up with is, unfortunately, it's not in any of the blooper reels, but I guess it happened enough times of just the two of them, very emotional scene. He makes the hand motion and then nothing happens. They're just like, what's happening? Everyone's like, they get the prop master in here trying to figure it out. So it made for a lot of funny moments on set.
That's the joy of practical.
It is, because the practical stuff looks really cool, but sometimes it just doesn't always work the way that you need it to. And just lastly, this was just the funniest thing that they ended the episode on is once the episode was over and the credits were rolling, they went to Robert Carlyle, and now you have to get out of a box. And then one of them asked, Bobby, how do you play being stuck in a box? Because they've been asking him that the entire time, like, how do you play this? How do you play being stuck in Pandora's box? That's what I would like to know.
Just, oh my God. This show. Just send me the clip of me trying to explain all of that. That's all I need. That's
To
what
be
I
fair,
need in life.
You did it flawlessly.
No, I forgot something.
No, you didn't forget. Oh, well, okay, the Queen of Hearts you didn't. I mean, that does not that doesn't count, but you did it pretty flawlessly.
And there's more?
Oh, there's so much more.
Oh my god, why?
Like I said, familial connections are very easy for viewers to latch onto, so it's an easy crutch to fall on.
This is a show.
It's a soap opera.
Yep. A weird fucking soap opera.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you all for listening. Join us next time when we discuss Bob's Burgers Season 6, Episode 7, The Gene and Courtney Show, and Episode 8, Sexy Dance Healing. Don't forget to like, rate, and follow the podcast wherever you listen so you can be notified every time we publish a new episode. Follow us at OBDYK_pod on Instagram and TikTok. And if you'd like to join our Patreon, you can find the link with more details in our show notes.
This has been an episode of Okay, But Did You Know? A TV and media podcast. It was hosted by Lauren and Katie and edited by Lauren.